There's a kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It's not calm, not soothing. It's hollow. The kind of silence that makes you feel like you're standing in a room full of people, but no one sees you. That's what growing up in my house felt like. My name's Derek. I'm the middle child, which might as well be code for optional. My sister Lena was the golden one. Straight A student, varsity cheerleader, always getting flowers and applause. My younger brother Aaron was the baby, spoiled, adored, forgiven before he even did anything wrong. And me? I was somewhere in between, the invisible buffer between their brightness. When I was little, I used to think maybe if I tried hard enough, someone would notice me. If I kept my grades perfect or helped out without being asked, maybe they'd look up from their dinner and say, "Good job, Derek." But that moment never came. Lena got a car when she graduated. Aaron got a new Xbox after a C average report card. I got silence. Always silence, it wasn't dramatic. There were no shouting matches or slammed doors. Just this constant, suffocating indifference. I'd come home to an empty house, cook my own dinner, wash my own clothes, and pretend that was normal. After a while, it didn't even make me sad, it just made me curious. What would happen if I vanished? So when I turned 18, I didn't throw a party. I didn't even mention it was my birthday. I just waited. Breakfast came and went. Dinner too. Not a word. Not a single happy birthday. That night, I packed a bag and left. No note. No confrontation. Just silence, the same kind they'd always given me. I had some money saved from working part-time at a bookstore. Enough to rent a small room with a guy named Raphael, a friend of a friend who didn't ask too many questions. The apartment was rough. Cracked tiles, flickering lights, a heater that coughed more than it worked. But it was mine. And for the first time in my life, the silence felt good. I got a job waiting tables at a diner 2 blocks away. I'd wake up before dawn, make coffee, and head in before sunrise. The place was loud, greasy, alive. People talked, laughed, argued. I didn't mind the noise. It meant I was part of something. Every tip, every thank you, every order I nailed made me feel like I mattered. It's funny how that kind of validation hits you when you've gone years without it. That fall, I enrolled in community college. Paid my own tuition with tips and ramen dinners. It was hard, exhausting. But every night I fell asleep proud because my life, finally, belonged to me. I made friends. Real ones. Mel, who ran the student podcast. Drew, who could fix anything with duct tape. They didn't care where I came from. They didn't know about Lena or Aaron or my parents who forgot I existed. I let them assume I was one of those kids who'd aged out of the system or gotten kicked out. It was easier than telling the truth, that I had a family, and they just stopped seeing me. Sometimes I'd see a mom hug her kid at the bus stop, or a dad cheering at a baseball game, and something in me would ache. I'd feel that sting in my chest, the kind that reminds you of everything you missed. But I'd breathe through it, because as much as it hurt, I was still free. 2 years passed. I got my associate degree, transferred to a university, started working tech support at the campus library. I built a portfolio, picked up freelance gigs, and slowly turned that silence into a life. And then one night, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years. Dad Mobile. I just stared at it, watching it buzz. I didn't answer. Couldn't. It was like seeing a ghost. The call went to voicemail. The message was short. "Hey, it's me. Dad, we were just wondering how you've been. Mom's been asking. Anyway, call us back, all right?" That was it. 2 years of silence, and that's what he came up with. "No, I'm sorry. No, we miss you." Just a casual check-in, like I'd gone off to summer camp and forgot to write home. I didn't call back. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why now? 2 days later, I got a text from Lena. "Hey, Dad's been trying to get in touch. You should call him. It's important. That word rattled around in my head. Not urgent, not emotional, just important. Like she was talking about an errand, not a person. I didn't reply. I just opened her profile out of curiosity. Her feed was full of family pictures. Mom, Dad, Aaron, all smiling. Matching sweaters at Christmas. Dinner parties, vacations, not a single empty seat in those photos. It was like I'd been cropped out of my own life, and now they wanted to talk. I waited a few days before replying. I told my dad I could meet him. 1 hour. Neutral place. We picked a small cafe downtown. I got there early, sat by the window. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked older, smaller somehow. He smiled like this was some long-awaited reunion. "Hey, Derek, you look good." I just nodded. He sat down, ordered coffee, and started talking. About the house. About Lena's promotion. About Aaron applying to college. It sounded rehearsed. Then he said it. "We were surprised when you left." "You didn't say anything." Surprised? I couldn't help it. I laughed. He kept talking, fumbling through excuses. "We thought you were just staying at a friend's. Then time passed, and it got harder to reach out. That was it." That was his explanation for forgetting me. Finally, I interrupted him. "Why now?" He blinked. "What do you mean? Why reach out after 2 years?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Your grandmother passed. The family's been strained. We're trying to reconnect." And just like that, I knew. They didn't reach out because they missed me. They reached out because they needed something. I stood up. "I'm sorry about Grandma," I said. "But I'm not the one you call when things fall apart. Not anymore." He looked like he wanted to argue, but I was already walking away. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad, just done. That night, I ignored his calls. Then came the text. We should have handled things differently. "Mom wants to see you too." I stared at it for a long time before replying, "I hope you're both well. I've built a life I'm proud of. Please respect that." I hit send, then I turned off my phone. The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was peace. After that message, I didn't hear from them for a while. No calls, no texts, no, "we just want to talk." The silence stretched out again, but this time it didn't feel like punishment. It felt earned. I'd drawn a line, and for once, they actually stayed on their side of it. The days that followed felt strangely calm. I'd go to class, work my shifts, hang out with friends. Life went on quietly, and that quiet didn't scare me anymore. I wasn't waiting for something to fill it. But still, every once in a while, I'd catch myself wondering if they'd ever really understood why I left. If they ever sat around that dinner table and noticed the empty chair. I'd picture my mom saying something like, "We should have done more," or my dad finally realizing what his indifference cost him. I'd imagine Lena maybe scrolling through old photos, remembering I was part of them once. But deep down, I knew better. Families like mine don't talk about what's uncomfortable. They just move on. Pretend it never happened. A few weeks after that cafe meeting, I got an email from Lena. The subject line just said, "Family update." The message was short. "Mom's been unwell lately. Nothing serious. She'd love to see you. No hi, no how are you." No acknowledgement of the years between us. Just a guilt-laced invitation like I was supposed to drop everything because now they decided it was time. I didn't reply. Instead, I closed my laptop and went for a walk. It was cold out. The kind of night where your breath hangs in the air like fog. I stopped by a coffee shop near campus, sat by the window, and watched people come and go. Couples laughing, parents holding kids, students studying. They all seemed connected, like they belonged somewhere. I thought about how I used to crave that kind of belonging. The feeling of being part of a unit, a home. But sitting there, I realized something that took me years to understand. I didn't need them to feel whole anymore. The family I wanted didn't have to come from blood. I had Raphael, who'd become more like a brother than a roommate. I had Mel, who checked on me when I went quiet for a few days. I had Drew, who showed up with takeout whenever he sensed I was stressed. These people didn't owe me anything, and that's what made their care real. Still, even with all that, there were nights when the old loneliness came back. Not because I missed them, but because I missed the idea of what family should have been. The warmth that never existed. The safety I had to teach myself to build. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, I got a message from Aaron. He was 16 now. The same age I'd been when they forgot my birthday. His text was hesitant. "Hey Derek, it's Aaron. I found your number from Lena. Hope it's okay," I texted. I just wanted to say hi. I stared at it for a while. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was happy he reached out. The other part? Cautious. "Hey," I finally replied. "Yeah, it's okay. How have you been?" He told me about school, soccer, some summer job he wanted. Regular teenage stuff. We talked a bit. It felt awkward, but not bad, just unfamiliar. Then he said, "Mom doesn't know I texted you. She said you don't want to talk to us anymore." That hit me hard. It wasn't anger, it was disappointment. Because even now, instead of owning up to what happened, they were still rewriting the story, turning me into the problem, the one who didn't want to talk. I typed and deleted a dozen replies before settling on something simple. It's not that I don't want to talk. I just needed space. Things were hard back then. He read it and sent a single message. Yeah, I know. I didn't ask how he knew. But something about that made me pause. Maybe he saw things I didn't realize he noticed back then. Maybe he remembered how I used to sit alone at dinner, or how my birthdays went unnoticed. Maybe in his own quiet way, he understood. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. How he was growing up in that same house, surrounded by the same silence. I wanted to protect him from it. To tell him it wasn't his fault if he ever felt invisible. But I also knew stepping back into that family meant reopening wounds I'd worked too hard to close, so I didn't call. I didn't text again. I just waited. A week later, Erin messaged again. Mom's been asking if I talked to you. She said maybe you'd come for dinner sometime. Dinner. The same table I used to sit at quietly while everyone else laughed. The table that never had room for me until now. I didn't answer him right away. I needed time to think. The truth is, part of me wanted to go. To walk in and prove to them that I turned out fine. That I didn't need their validation to become someone. But the other part, the part that had healed, knew better. I didn't owe them proof. I finally replied to Erin, maybe someday, just not right now. Tell Mom I hope she's feeling better. He said, okay. That was it. No pressure, no guilt. Just okay. That night, I sat in my apartment, the light from my computer screen casting a soft glow across the room. Raphael was out, and the quiet was thick but gentle. I thought about how far I'd come, from that kid who waited for a happy birthday, to the man who finally learned how to give himself peace. But peace doesn't mean the past disappears. It lingers like a shadow in the corner. And sometimes, no matter how much distance you put between yourself and your old life, the ghosts find their way back. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't pick up. But something made me answer. Hello? There was a pause. Then softly, Derek? It's Mom. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Fragile, almost. Hey, I said cautiously. I heard you met your father, she said. He told me you didn't want to talk to us anymore. I stayed quiet. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she continued. For everything, I guess. I know we weren't the best parents. Things were hard, and I stopped her gently. Mom, it's okay, she exhaled shakily. No, it's not. We should have done better. I should have done better. There it was. The thing I never thought I'd hear. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the years of silence or the birthdays that never mattered. But it cracked something open in me. Thank you, I said quietly. That means a lot. We talked for a few minutes after that, awkward, hesitant, but real. When the call ended, I sat there in stunned silence. For the first time, someone in that family had said the words I needed most. I'm sorry. I didn't know what would come next. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But for the first time in a long time, the past didn't feel so heavy. That night, I slept with my phone by my bed, not because I was waiting for another call, but because for once I didn't feel like running from one. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Mom. Thank you for answering last night. It meant more than you think. That was it. No follow-up, no heavy message, just a few quiet words that carried more weight than she probably realized. For a while, I just stared at it. I didn't know what to say back. Everything I could have said, everything I'd wanted to say, felt too big for a text message. So I just typed, "You're welcome," and left it at that. It felt strange, this calm after years of noise. Not the loud kind, but the kind that fills your head when you're holding too much inside. Now, there was just silence, and it didn't hurt. Over the next few weeks, things shifted slowly. I didn't rush into anything. I didn't visit home or start acting like everything was fine. But there were small steps. An occasional text from Mom asking about work, Erin sending memes, even a, "Hey, how's school?" from Lena, which was almost funny given she hadn't cared much before. I wasn't sure what their intentions were. Maybe guilt, maybe genuine change. But I decided not to overthink it. I'd learned the hard way that not every door that reopens should be walked through right away. Sometimes it's enough just to know it's not locked anymore. Around that time, life started picking up again. I got a promotion at work, started a small art project on the side, and even joined a weekend hiking group with Raphael and Drew. For the first time, my life felt mine. Then, one night, while I was working on a painting, my phone buzzed again. It was Erin. "Hey, Mom's birthday's next week. We're doing a small dinner. She said she'd like you to come if you're free." I just stared at the message. A birthday dinner. For her. Something about that made me laugh quietly. Not in a cruel way, just at the irony. All those years, my birthdays didn't even get a text. Now here they were, inviting me to theirs. Raphael looked up from the couch. "What's funny?" I showed him the message. He read it, then looked at me. "You gonna go?" "I don't know," I said honestly. He shrugged. "You don't owe them, man. But if you think it might give you closure, maybe it's worth it." Closure. The word stuck in my head for days. By the time Erin texted again, "Just checking if you're coming," I'd made up my mind. "Yeah," I replied. "I'll come." The drive to my hometown felt surreal. Everything looked the same but smaller, like it had shrunk while I'd grown up. The streets I used to walk, the corner store that used to be a second home, even the air smelled the same. It was weird how memory could hit you through something as simple as a breeze. When I pulled up to the house, my hands were trembling a little. The porch light was on, and I could see silhouettes moving inside. I almost turned around. But then Erin opened the door before I could even knock. "Hey!" he said, grinning like a little kid again. "You came." "Yeah," I said with a small smile. I did. The house hadn't changed much. Same furniture, same photos on the wall. Except this time, I noticed one thing that hadn't. Been there before. A framed picture of all of us from years ago sitting together at the park. I must have been about 12. Someone had written Family Day in blue marker at the bottom. It was a lie, but a familiar one. Mom came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. When she saw me, she froze. Then she smiled softly, and for a second, I saw something real in her eyes. "Hi, sweetheart," she said. "Hey, Mom." She walked over and hugged me. It was awkward, stiff at first, but she held on a little longer than I expected. Dinner was quiet. Awkward, but civil. No shouting, no sharp words, just small talk. About work, about Erin's school, about how the weather had been unpredictable lately. It was all surface level, but it was peaceful. At one point, Mom looked across the table and said, "I know this might feel strange for you. Having you here again." I nodded. "A little. I want to say I'm glad you came," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either," I admitted. Everyone laughed a little, and that broke some of the tension. Later, after dinner, Erin and I sat outside on the porch while the others cleaned up. The night air was cool, and the sound of crickets filled the silence between us. "I'm glad you came," he said. "It's been different since you left." "Different how?" He thought for a second. "Quieter. And I don't know. Mom and Dad don't talk about you much, but when they do, it's like they know they messed up. I think that's why she called you." I looked up at the stars. Maybe. Or maybe she just wanted to fix what she could before it was too late. Erin nodded slowly. "Do you think you'll come back more?" I hesitated. "I don't know. I'm not sure what coming back means yet." He accepted that. Didn't push. Just sat there, tapping his shoe against the wood. Then he said, "You know, I always remembered that year you left. I was just a kid, but I remember the house felt different. Colder. You were the only one who talked to me like I mattered." That one hit deep. "I didn't think you noticed," I said quietly. "I did," he replied. "And I think that's why I texted you. I just wanted to say thanks for that." I looked at him for a long moment. The kid I left behind wasn't a kid anymore. He'd grown up in the same silence I escaped, and yet somehow he still had kindness left in him. When I left that night, Mom hugged me again. This time it felt less forced. "Drive safe, okay?" she said. "I will." As I walked to my car, I glanced back once. The porch light was still on, and for the first time in years, it didn't look like a place I was running from. It looked like a place I'd outgrown. The next morning, I woke up to another text from Mom. Last night was nice. I hope we can do it again sometime. And this time I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I typed. Me too. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. The next few weeks passed in a blur of small, cautious peace. I didn't rush to visit again, but the distance between us didn't feel like a wall anymore. It was space, breathing room. A quiet understanding that rebuilding doesn't happen overnight. Mom texted sometimes. Short things like, hope your week's going well, or made your favorite soup today. Thought of you. I'd reply with a few words back. Nothing deep, but enough to keep a steady rhythm. Aaron called once in a while too, usually about something random. Advice on college applications, help with a resume, or just to tell me a joke he'd heard at school. It felt good. Not like old times, but like new beginnings that didn't need to erase what came before. But then, about a month after that dinner, I got another call. This time from an unfamiliar number. It was Lena. Hey, she said, her voice tight. Can you talk? Yeah, I said slowly. What's going on? It's Mom, she said. She collapsed this morning. They're saying it's mild, but she's in the hospital. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys and went. The drive felt endless. My mind ran through every possible scenario, every memory of her voice on the phone, every small moment of regret that I thought I'd already made peace with. When I got there, Aaron was sitting in the waiting room, his head buried in his hands. Lena stood nearby, pacing. How is she? I asked. Aaron looked up. They said it was a mild heart attack. She's stable now. I exhaled, finally letting my body relax. When they let me in to see her, she looked smaller than I remembered, pale, fragile, tired. Tubes running from her arms, machines beeping softly beside her bed. Her eyes flickered open when she saw me. Derek? Hey, I said quietly, pulling up a chair. You scared us, she gave a weak smile. Guess I did. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I didn't think you'd come. Of course I came, I said. I thought maybe you'd moved on, she whispered. And I wouldn't blame you, I shook my head. You're still my mom. She blinked slowly, tears welling up. I'm sorry I didn't act like it when it mattered. It wasn't the first time she said it, but this time it sounded different. Not like guilt or obligation, like truth. I know, I said. And I forgive you. Her lip trembled. You mean that? Yeah, I said softly. I do. Something inside me shifted then. Forgiveness didn't come with fireworks or tears. It came with a quiet peace. A kind of stillness I didn't realize I'd been craving all my life. We talked for a while. About small things. About Aaron's grades, Lena's job, my work. She listened like she actually cared this time. And maybe she did. Before I left, she squeezed my hand. Thank you for coming, she whispered. Always, I said. Outside the hospital, I stood for a while, watching the sunset fade over the parking lot. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at her, not at Dad, not at the past. Anger had kept me alive for a long time, but it had also kept me stuck. Letting it go didn't mean forgetting. It meant finally being free. A week later, Mom was discharged. She was weak but recovering. Aaron called me almost every day with updates. Then one evening, I got a call from Dad. Hey, Derek, he said, his voice unsure. I heard you've been around. Yeah, I said. Mom's been in the hospital. I came to help. I know, he said quietly. She told me. There was a long pause before he spoke again. I'm glad you did. I should have called you myself. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't sure what to say to a man who had spent half my life acting like I was invisible. Then he said, I wasn't a good father. I thought distance made things easier. For both of us. But I was wrong. I closed my eyes. You were. I know, he said. And I'm sorry. It wasn't emotional or dramatic. Just a tired man owning what he'd done. And for me, that was enough. We talked for a few minutes more, awkward but civil. When we hung up, I sat there in silence, letting the words sink in. The truth is, closure doesn't look like a perfect ending. It's not hugs and tears and everything magically fixed. It's small things, an apology that comes years too late, a dinner where no one yells, a phone call that doesn't end in resentment. It's learning to let love exist in the same space as hurt. Weeks passed. Mom got better. Aaron visited me a few times in the city, and we'd go out for burgers or shoot pool until late. Lena and I even talked on the phone once. She apologized too in her own awkward way. I guess I didn't see how bad it was for you, she said. I was too busy trying to be the perfect one. I get it, I told her. We all survive the way we know how. By summer, the family had changed, not drastically, but noticeably. There was effort now, real effort. And for the first time, I felt like I could visit without walking on glass. One afternoon, I drove down again, just to check in. Mom was on the porch reading. When she saw me, her face lit up with a smile that looked so much lighter than before. You hungry? She asked. Always, I said, grinning. She laughed, and for a moment, it almost felt like the family I used to wish for. Not perfect. Not unbroken. But trying. As I helped her make lunch, I realized something important. The past doesn't disappear. It softens. It stops being a wound and becomes a scar, something that reminds you where you've been without keeping you there. That night, as I drove back home, the sky turned a deep orange over the highway. The radio played a song I used to love as a kid. I turned it up, windows down, wind rushing in. I thought about that boy I used to be, the one who sat by himself every birthday, waiting for someone to notice. He'd waited for years for his family to love him right. But maybe the truth was simpler. He just needed to learn to love himself first, and now he finally did. It's strange how life can go quiet after years of noise. Not empty, just still. That's how it felt in the months after everything happened. No more late-night arguments in my head, no more replaying what I should have said. Just peace. Mom was healing. Slowly but steadily. She'd send me photos sometimes, her small garden, Aaron's latest soccer medal, the dog she'd finally adopted because the house felt too quiet. I'd send her pictures back of my apartment, my paintings, the view from my window when it rained. It was a quiet kind of closeness, one that didn't demand anything from either of us. Dad called once in a while, too. Not often, but enough to show he was trying. The first few calls were awkward. We both fumbled over small talk. But with time, it got easier. He'd ask how work was, I'd ask how he was holding up. No big confessions, no forced apologies. Just two people figuring out what it meant to start over. Aaron and I grew close. Closer than I ever expected. He'd call just to talk about random things. Girls, school, the world, his dreams. I listened, gave advice when I could, but mostly I just made sure he felt heard. The way I wish someone had done for me at his age. One night, months later, I went home again. Not for a crisis or a dinner or an apology, just because I wanted to. Mom was making lasagna when I walked in. She looked up and smiled. You came without me having to beg this time, she said teasingly. I grinned. Don't get used to it. She laughed, and the sound filled the house in a way I hadn't heard in years. Over dinner, Aaron talked about college plans. Lena dropped by with her husband. Dad came later, quieter than usual, but he showed up. We all sat around that old table, the one that had once been a battlefield, and for the first time it felt like a place of peace. No one pretended the past didn't happen. We didn't talk about it much, but it sat there quietly, like a guest we'd finally learned to live with. At one point, Mom looked at me across the table. You've changed, she said. Yeah, I said. I had to. Her eyes softened. I'm proud of you. Those words hit harder than I expected. Maybe because I never thought I'd hear them. Maybe because I didn't realize how much I'd still wanted to. After dinner, I went out to the porch alone. The night air was cool and the stars were out, clear and steady. I could hear laughter inside, the kind that used to make me feel small, but now just sounded warm. I thought about everything that had led me here. The pain, the silence, the years of trying to be seen. All of it had shaped me, but none of it defined me anymore. For a long time, I believed healing meant going back, rebuilding what was lost, restoring what was broken. But now I knew better. Healing isn't about going back. It's about moving forward with understanding. It's about accepting that some things will never be perfect, and that's okay. Before I left that night, Mom hugged me at the door. Drive safe, she said, as always. Always, I replied, smiling. Aaron walked me to my car. Hey, he said, kicking at the gravel. Thanks for, not giving up on us. I put a hand on his shoulder. You gave me a reason not to. He nodded, eyes down. I'm gonna do better, too. You already are, I said. When I drove away, the house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, the porch light glowing faintly behind me. For once, I didn't feel like I was leaving something unfinished. I wasn't escaping anymore. I was just heading home in my own way. Back at my apartment, I stood by the window for a while, watching the city lights. I thought about that first night I'd sat here alone, years ago, angry and broken and unsure if I'd ever feel whole again. I thought about how I'd built a life from scratch, friends who became family, a job that gave me purpose, peace that I earned on my own terms, and then I smiled. Because I finally understood something that had taken me a lifetime to learn. Family isn't just who shares your blood. It's who shows up. It's who listens. It's who stays. And sometimes, when you stop chasing the love you never got, life quietly gives it back to you in ways you never expected.